Ahora los invitamos a hacer parte de este hecho histórico en el país y en la Universidad Externado de Colombia, con el panel Los negocios sociales como motor para el alivio de la pobreza y la construcción de paz, en el que agradecemos la presencia del profesor Muhammad Yunus y el presidente Juan Manuel Santos Calderón. El profesor Yunus creó el Grameen Bank, iniciando una revolución de las microfinanzas en 2006. Le valió uno de los premios más prestigiosos de la humanidad, el Premio Nobel de la Paz. El Grameen evolucionó por ser un banco de microcréditos a convertirse en un ecosistema de empresas que tenían el objetivo de resolver problemas de la humanidad. Estas empresas fueron los primeros casos de un nuevo modelo de negocio, empresas sociales. Por otro lado, Juan Manuel Santos Calderón fue presidente de Colombia entre el 2010 y 2018. Durante su tiempo en la presidencia, se entablaron los diálogos de paz con el grupo armado FARC-EP. En noviembre de 2016, se firmó el acuerdo de paz entre el gobierno nacional y el grupo guerrillero. Fue en ese mismo 2016 que el presidente Santos fue laureado con el Premio Nobel de la Paz. Por favor, vamos a dar un fuerte aplauso a nuestros panelistas. Profesor Yunus y presidente Santos, sean ustedes bienvenidos a la Universidad Externado de Colombia. Es un placer para nosotros tenerlos hoy en día aquí. Este primer panel denominado Los negocios sociales como motor para el alivio de la pobreza y la construcción de paz será moderado por el profesor de la Facultad de Administración de Empresas y experto en temas de liderazgo, Mauricio Rodríguez Múnera. Mauricio, gracias por estar aquí. Tiene usted la palabra.
Muchas gracias. Muy buenos días a todos y a todas. Muchas gracias por su presencia. Para mí es un gran honor y un placer especial tener la función de moderar esta conversación entre dos premios Nobel de Paz. Es una oportunidad única para aprender de liderazgo, aprender de negocios sociales, aprender de cómo se conectan los temas de la paz, del desempleo, de la pobreza, del cambio climático. Y en estos 45 minutos lo que quiero es aprovechar al máximo la experiencia del doctor Yunus, el profesor Yunus, a quienes todos admiramos por su gran labor a través del Grameen Bank y de otras iniciativas que a lo largo y ancho del mundo pone en práctica en muchos países y en muchos frentes. Y por supuesto agradecer la presencia del presidente Santos, que le abrió la puerta a la paz en Colombia y que también tiene experiencia y conocimiento en el tema que nos convoca, el tema de los negocios sociales. Quiero comenzar.
¿Puedo hacer un comentario?
Adelante.
Es que quiero contarles una anécdota. En el año 2006, cuando el profesor Yunus fue galardonado con el Premio Nobel de Paz, ese año yo fui nombrado ministro de Defensa para hacer la guerra. Y recuerdo cuando le entregaron el Nobel de Paz, ese fue uno de los meses más violentos. Me tocó ir varias veces al hospital militar a consolar a los soldados heridos, a funerales para consolar a las viudas de los soldados caídos en combate. Y cuando le dieron el premio Nobel, yo decía, qué bueno sería tener paz aquí en Colombia. ¿Quién se iba a imaginar que 10 años después iba a estar yo donde estaba el profesor Yunus en Oslo y que 16 años después estaríamos juntos aquí con nuestras respectivas fundaciones? Todo premio Nobel tiene su fundación. Entonces, su fundación y la mía, trabajando juntos, construyendo paz en las zonas de conflicto colombiano. Y qué bueno tenerlo aquí, profesor Yunus, nuevamente. Usted estuvo aquí cuando yo era presidente, nos honró con su visita, pero qué bueno tenerlo nuevamente aquí en este momento donde también estamos perseverando en la construcción de la paz, en lo que usted, con todo su trabajo acabamos de escuchar, la paz necesita eliminar la pobreza porque la pobreza es enemiga de la paz. Y por eso le agradezco tanto que usted esté aquí.
Gracias, presidente Santos. Gracias.
We have been great friends ever since. We work together to make sure that we achieve the dream that we had and continue to work together. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you very much. Muy bien, entremos en materia entonces para que nos rindan los 45 minutos que tenemos para este espacio. Voy a cambiar al inglés para que la conversación sea más fluida y no tengamos pérdidas de tiempo con las traducciones para el profesor Yunus. I'll start my introduction mentioning this book, your book titled A World of Three Zeros, The New Economics of Zero Poverty, Zero Unemployment, and Zero Net Carbon Emissions. And I'd like to read a fragment which I think gives us the key elements of the content of your book. You say that we need to redesign the economic machine. And I read, quote, that redesigned economic engine has three basic elements. First, we need to embrace the concept of social business, a new form of enterprise based on the human virtue of selfishness. Second, we need to replace the assumption that human beings are job seekers with the new assumption that human beings are entrepreneurs. And third, we need to redesign the entire financial system to make it work efficiently for the people at the bottom of the economic ladder. You define a social business as a non-dividend company dedicated to solving human problems. Please elaborate on this concept, Dr. Yunus.
Thank you very much. You have summed up my entire life. This is what I was, this is what I'm doing. First, I must mention that I'm feeling at home here, coming so many times, and with your invitation, I came, and later I came on other occasions. And we became friends together for over a long time with you, and now with External University. We created the Yunus Social Business Center here. During the COVID time, we were watching each other on the Zoom screen. And now I see the real faces because I have not seen them in the real physical faces. So wonderful to be here and be with you. And we feel like at home and friends working together for an objective, for a mission that we have. You mentioned about this. This came from the work that you started in a small way, tiny way in one village to protect people from the loan shark. This was mentioned here in the session, what is happening in Colombia, extreme interest rate charges and getting people to get the money for the poor people. And was commented was, being poor is expensive. That's the word I keep remembering. World has been very unkind to the poor people. Everything is done against them, not for them. And we tried to open a little door so that I can bring some facilities from the world to kind of go into the hands of the poor people. That translated into small loans to poor people, particularly poor women. And I had no idea that it will grow into a bank. I had no idea that it will be replicated around the world. But when we started doing that, when we continue to do that, one thing kept coming back again and again. That's the point I wanted to elaborate with you because of your question. I came to a very firm conclusion. Poverty is not created by the poor people. It's a very important lesson. Poverty is not created by the poor people. Poverty is created by the system that we built, economic system. That's where you are quoting me. if you want to address the question of poor people, going to poor people is important, but that's not going to solve the problem of poverty. Because you have to go back where this poverty is coming from. It's coming from a system that we created which shut off all the doors for the poor people, rejected by the system, and they remain at the bottom. And we have a very strange economic system we built. And it's looking at it from the bottom as we are working with them, it looks so strange, so unkind. That system is built like a machine which sucks up all the wealth from the bottom, whatever is generated at the bottom, to push it in the top. So the wealth is going into the top in the hands of a handful of people. Bottom people don't get anything. And when I say bottom people, it's not only the poor who are near poverty and bottom people under income scale way down. They are the one rejected or marginally benefiting, but the entire benefit goes to the poor. So you have a machine which is always making sure you remain at the bottom. I challenge that. So why should we carry on with this machine? If you're so sincere about addressing the poverty and helping to overcome the problem, if you accept that poor people are as good as any human being, they are not lacking in anything, simply system close the door. So that's why I keep emphasizing, let's redesign the system. We have to build a new system. As we create a new system, it's not just a repair work for the existing system. Most of the efforts come into the repairing of the system. I said, repair is not going to do the work. And I tried to explain, I said, if you go through the old roads, you always go to the same destination that you have always had. And that destination is what creates poverty. I said, if you want to go to a new destination where there'll be no poverty, you have to build new roads. Old road will never take you to that destination. And that's the campaign that I've been doing. And that led to the whole idea of not only one aspect of the economic system, all aspects of economic system is affected. That's why talking about entrepreneurship. I said all human beings are born as entrepreneurs. But what the economic system has told us, get a job. Job is the ultimate of human being. I said, absolutely true, untrue. This is not right. We were never created as job seekers. We are created as entrepreneurs. And I give the example by saying, when we're in the caves, long back in history, we are not sending job application to anybody. Cave number 5, sending job application to cave number 10, that's not what we did. We just went ahead and solved our own problems. That's what we are, problem solvers. Human beings are problem solvers. The moment you create a job, you cut off the problem-solving element of the human being. So I'm very much opposed to the aspect of economic system which is encouraging vast majority of human beings to become job seekers. So I said human beings are packed with unlimited creative capacity. The moment you accept a job, you surrender your creative capacity. Job and creative capacity do not go together. Elon Musk is a good example right now. He kicks up the company, he throws out the people. See, at the wish what he has. He wants you to come back and work in the office. It's his wish, not the worker's wish. So worker has to follow what the owner has to say. That's why I was saying that we have to redesign the system where we building entrepreneurship. Like all the universities create job seekers. They said, we are here, we are creating job-ready young people. I said, that's a shame that you say you are creating job-ready young people. You are transforming creative human being into non-creative human being. What a damage you do to the people. You should be encouraging, you should be preparing young people to become entrepreneurs, to solve problems, to do things. That's the job. So these are the kind of things that I keep repeating, I keep encouraging. That's why when we create Yunus Social Business Center, these are the ideas that we want to bring into the academic world, because academic world is responsible for creating all the mess that we created around ourselves, because those are the theories young people go out and implement. So we have to challenge the existing system and create a new system. That's where the university has to play a role, to build a new system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Yunus. President Santos, I guess that you would like to add another zero to the title of this book and to its content. In addition to zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero net carbon emissions, I guess you would like to complement by adding zero violent conflict. Please connect peace and poverty and employment and contribution to fighting climate change. How do you see this connection? And what are you doing in your foundation, Compass, to complement the redesign of the economic system through peace as the engine for prosperity and for equality?
Well, first of all, I want to emphasize what Professor Yunus just said. And we are seeing that right now in Colombia, in the regions that had been affected by the conflict, where we are working together, Foundation
con mi
Compass,
fundación
what
Compás,
we are doing
donde
is
estamos haciendo,
creating
creando más
leadership
bien un
at the
liderazgo
grassroots levels.
a
Even with the
nivel
University
de
Externado,
base, desde el principio, de las raíces. Con la Universidad de Externado hemos identificado los líderes, les enseñamos el liderazgo, les damos las herramientas de liderazgo y regresa a promover los negocios para resolver los problemas y promover la paz con la naturaleza. Esa es la protección al ambiente, al medio ambiente. Y lo que hemos descubierto, como usted dijo, sobre el emprendimiento, los emprendedores son los que van a sacar a la gente de la pobreza, más que la creación de trabajo. Los seres humanos y los colombianos particularmente tienen un sentido muy grande de emprendimiento. En Colombia vamos a encontrar ese emprendimiento.
And what we do is that we help them initiate their businesses and then follow through.
Y seguimos, porque muchos de los negocios fallan, porque no hacen un seguimiento. Pero si uno les ayuda a empezar y llevarlos a un nivel mínimo, van a empezar ellos mismos. Y ahí es donde las personas trabajan más que ser contratados. Entonces está en lo correcto. Pero para resolver su pregunta, Mauricio, estamos muy conectados. El desafío más grande que tiene el mundo hoy es cómo parar el calentamiento global, el cambio climático. Y hay una interconexión muy directa entre el conflicto armado y el cambio climático. El conflicto armado es un obstáculo para parar el cambio climático. Y si continuamos olvidando el cambio climático, vamos a promover más conflictos armados. Es un círculo vicioso. Entre más haya conflictos armados, menos capaces somos de parar el cambio climático. Y entre seamos menos efectivos en hacerlo, vamos a crear más conflictos. Y eso ya lo vemos en el mundo entero. La migración ahora, o inmigración, es más alta que la migración por el conflicto armado. Pero esta inmigración alimenta el conflicto armado, que también se deriva de la pobreza. Por eso que cuando empezamos el proceso de paz, dijimos, necesitamos darle credibilidad a estos procesos haciendo un par de cosas. Lo primero, visualizar algo que en los peores casos no ha sido visualizado, y son las víctimas de la guerra. Número dos, pobreza. Y nos inspiramos de otro premio sido mi profesor hace 40 años. Y me acuerdo que dijo, Marta, profesor Sen, esta es su estudiante o fui su estudiante y quiere que nos ayude a luchar contra la pobreza, pero no de la forma tradicional. Las innovaciones de Marta Sen y que trajo al mundo contra la pobreza fue no hablen la pobreza en la forma tradicional del Banco Mundial, sino sobre cuánto gana usted, sus necesidades básicas más bien. ¿Qué es lo que nos lleva para una familia para salir de la pobreza? Entonces inventó algo que se llama el índice multidimensional de la pobreza. Colombia fue el primer país en adoptar este índice y adoptar las políticas con la pobreza utilizando ese índice. Y por eso es que Colombia los siguientes años, 8
brought
años,
down poverty more than any other country. And that is very much connected with the peace process, because what many people, many theorists of armed conflict said, you have to also attack the so-called objective causes of conflict. And one of the biggest objective causes of conflict is poverty. So it's completely interrelated, and also poverty feeds climate change. You see it in Colombia. Why are we suffering from deforestations in the regions that you are going tomorrow? You're going tomorrow to the Orinoco regions, to Guaviare, to Vaupés. There, part of the deforestation is caused because of poverty. So, Mauricio, it's completely related, and thank God that people are becoming more and more aware. Now, many more summits today in Egypt, in the Climate Change Summit. This issue of connection between climate change and conflict and climate change and poverty is much more important than what it was 1 year ago in Glasgow and many years ago in the past summits. And hopefully next month, when there is a summit in Montreal to fight the destruction of biodiversity, and this is something that we should make a call, these summits should be merged. It's the same problem. If you destroy biodiversity, you cannot fight climate change, and vice versa. If you don't fight climate change, you will destroy biodiversity. So all these efforts should merge and become one big effort. And that's why they're so interrelated.
Thank you,
Can
President
I just
Santos. Please,
quick
of course,
comment on
your
what
comments,
President
Dr.
Santos said?
Please.
I keep repeating now with the COP27, it's Sharm el-Sheikh going. I said there should be only one agenda for COP27, not all the varieties of things that we did in Glasgow. The only agenda is stop the war. Because unless you stop the war, all your actions will fail, because you make circumstances in such a way, all the points that you have made, how they are interactive and so on. So how to make that? If a decision can be made, anybody who is an aggressor, or anybody attacking another country, the whole world will boycott them. You have to come up with a solution to identify the aggressor and to punish them. Otherwise, we cannot create the world that we are thinking about. Particularly when we did in the Glasgow COP26, allocated lots of money from different countries for addressing the global warming. When the Ukrainian war began, gradually government are shifting that money allocated for global warming into defense expenses. Everybody's, because this is their urgency. I said, what is your nature of urgency? Keep the world alive and continue, or just fight a war? Why can't we create what should be the culture of peace? How to address that? How to resolve conflicts? Not by guns, by discussions. So human beings are so stupid. They don't know how to resolve conflicts. They come with guns and nuclear weapons and all that kind of thing. We have to learn that process. Yes, please.
Your friend Nelson Mandela had a great phrase. He said, "The most powerful weapon there is in the world is to sit down and talk."
Thank you. Fantastic.
Dr. Yunus, I was shocked by an analogy you have written in this book. You compare poor people with bonsai trees. And it's true, it's very sad, but it's true. Please, you have criticized already the education model, which is not teaching entrepreneurship skills to young people, which is a way to escape from poverty. Please elaborate on this analogy of poor people as bonsai trees. And my specific question is, what could the government, what should the state do to facilitate the growth of these persons and avoid being bonsai forever?
Well, thank you for that. As I was mentioning that my realization came, poor people are not the one responsible for their poverty. They don't create poverty. So I try to explain that. Then one way I try to explain it, it's like a bonsai tree. You take a little seed and plant it in a flower pot. The seed is the seed of the tallest tree that you could ever see. You take the seed and put it in a flower pot to grow and pay all your love and attention to that seed. Seed will sprout. It will only be as tall as maybe 1 meter or so, exactly like the one that you saw, the tall tree in the forest, but very short. And you ask the question, I tried to give all the attention to this seed. How come it stopped here? It didn't grow as meters after meters above. Simple reason. We planted the seed in a flower pot. You didn't give enough space to let it grow as to its potential. If you had planted that seed into real soil, it will be as tall as any other tree that you have seen in your lifetime. I said, poor people are bonsai people. There's nothing wrong with their seed. Simply, society never gave them the space to grow as tall as everybody else. So the fault lies on the society, the environment that you created around them, the policies that you have created for them, institutions that you have denied their service to them. They are the one responsible to keep them as a poor person, not them. Nothing wrong with the seed. That's the focus I wanted to bring, repeating there's nothing wrong with the poor people. When we created Grameen Bank, the microcredit and all that, people, what is this little money will do? I said, I don't know, but at the moment what I see, they can get away from the loan shark. That's an immediate thing we're looking for. But as it grew, something struck me. With the little money that we gave from our system, they're not looking for a job. They never asked for a job. Nobody came to us, I take the money, try to find a job. Nobody said that. That little money, in the beginning, loan size was $25, $50, very small amount. She took the money, bought some chicken, let it give the eggs. She sells the eggs and repays the bank and ready for her next bunch of more chicken. And it came very naturally. She didn't go to any business school. We didn't train them for anything. Simply we challenged them. What do you want to do with the money? That's the question we ask. And she elaborates it, her dream, what she wants to do that. Now coming back, we see millions and millions of women taking this small money. They became entrepreneurs. They are not job seekers. They created their own enterprises with their own way of thinking and own way of finding scope for them how to do that. Then I came to that realization. that human beings are natural entrepreneurs. It doesn't need any training. This natural human being gets into school, gets into colleges, universities. They don't get that entrepreneurship left in them. They become job seeker. That is the process that I always shout against. That's a wrong process. Give them a chance to realize that they are human beings, they are gifted with a huge capacity of doing things on their own, creative things on their own, unleash their creative capacity. That should be the role of the education system. That should be the role of the families. Now families encourage, get ready, get a job. If you don't do this, you won't get a good job. That's a wrong idea, wrong thing. So this is when you look at the bonsai tree, we are talking about they are the potential entrepreneurs. Treat them as entrepreneurs. What provides the basis, the soil to grow? That's where the finance comes in. Finance is the oxygen of entrepreneurship. Close down the finance, all these big guys making big money will fall. It's all because of the finance. They have the access to finance. 75% of the population of the world do not have access to finance. They are the victims of the loan shark. They're pushed back. They're not pushed up. So institutions we failed to create. I said we should be creating social business banking system. Banking system should be devoted to helping the people who are at the very bottom of the ladder to unleash their creative capacity and go up. They can be as big as you want. There's nothing lacking in them. They could be the best business person in the world because finance is there. The moment you connect them with the oxygen, they grow. The moment you stop that oxygen, they will no longer can do things. Thank you.
I will. Using the bonsai analogy, I would add something which is very important and that we have been trying to promote here. The seed needs the same fertilizer for everybody. That's why it's so important to invest in early childhood. Early childhood, many economists, there's one that won the Nobel Prize in economics because of his work in early childhood from the University of Chicago, Heckman. He said, the most profitable social investment there is early childhood. Because otherwise, you have bonsais and non-bonsais, no matter what you do afterwards. So a very necessary conditions for what you are proposing on the banking, on the opportunities, has to have as a basis some more equality in the first 4 or 5 years of life.
And I'll just add to that, please, go ahead. I'll just add to that, as I do the academic institutions like here in Externado. I said, I would be dreaming about creating academic institutions which are focused on encouraging young people to discover themselves as entrepreneurs. So all the courses they will be going through is about how to discover and how to unleash their creative capacity, unlimited creative capacity. Each one of these kids has. They have to discover them, what it is, and how to create enterprises. This would be the actual core of the education system, discovering himself, discovering herself. And then education system should be running with a parallel financial system so that you come up during your school years, you come up with business ideas, either a social business or a business to make money, in a small little enterprise that you want to create, so that you can go to your school department, which is a financing department or a financial institutions, to see if they will be interested to invest in your business. While you're in school, you can create your own business because the finance is available. Finance, as I said, is oxygen. The moment you bring the oxygen, they become real and continue. So one doesn't have to wait for getting a certificate. I became bachelor degree, I become a master, a holder of master degree, because you need a piece of paper to get a job. In order to become entrepreneur, you don't need a piece of paper. Because you establish yourself, you're successful, and your friends learn from you, and they say, oh, he did this, or she did this, I can do much better than that. So I come up with my ideas and go to the finance system and get the money and start my own while I'm still in school. So that is the way we have to redesign the whole academic institutions. And you can start your business while you're still taking courses. You don't have to finish and get out of the school to get the start of your life. Your life starts with yourself. You are as creative as a human being wherever you are. A 15-year-old can be a very creative person. So why do I have to wait until 20 or something to get a job? Why can't you express myself as an... And I come up with brilliant ideas while I'm still in school, junior school, high, or a senior high school. Forget about the college. So that is the one that I try to bring to the attention of the designers of a school, academic system, and so on, how to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yunus. If I may add to your mention about the importance of the financial sector to feed this plant, to water this plant, to grow, what is amazing about that Grameen Bank is the repayment rate. 98.65% of debts are paid. Loans which were given based on just the commitment, the personal commitment to repay with no collateral. You have proven that poor people pay their debts, they honor their debts. So it's not a financial risk that cannot be managed. And that's a good example to follow all over the world. Now, I would like to go back to President Santos to another problem that we could add to this list connected to these problems of poverty, unemployment, climate change, and conflict, violence, which is, you have a very strong position on this issue, war on drugs. How do you relate your personal commitment to stop this war on drugs, which has clearly been unsuccessful? $1 trillion have been spent in the past 50 years. Millions of people have been killed. Millions of people have suffered from this war, and the actual reality is very negative. So we need to change. We need to change the approach. We need to, as Professor Yunus was mentioning, take a different road. Please elaborate about this idea.
Well, this is another coincidence. This week in Colombia, the Global Commission on Drug Policy, which is composed by 30 former heads of state and personalities of all ideological tendencies, came to present a report on Colombia. The Global Commission, after many years of research and with the evidence in their hands, has come to the conclusion that you have to do away with prohibition, that prohibition is the source of all the problems that drug trafficking has been creating, and that today we are worse than when the war on drugs was declared 50 years ago, or more than 50 years ago. When this was discussed, the first convention in the United Nations, there was a big discussion of what drugs were dangerous and what drugs were not. And the big lobby from the tobacco companies and from the liquor companies pressed in order to have marijuana and coca leaves put in the list of dangerous prohibited drugs. even though that since then, for example, in the case of marijuana, it was less harmful to human health than alcohol or tobacco. But for 60 years, prohibition has generated the biggest organized crime that we have ever suffered. How did the United States address this problem of organized crime during prohibition? By abolishing prohibition. And I quote a former commissioner of the Chicago Criminal Commission that was fighting against Al Capone, and he said, we cannot do away with organized crime as we cannot do away with the consumption of drugs, but we can control it. We can minimize the harmful effects by abolishing prohibition. And I quote also a book, a biography of Winston Churchill. He went to California through Canada during Prohibition. And as you know, Winston Churchill liked to drink whiskey. And he arrived in Canada, in California during Prohibition and asked for a whiskey, and they said, no, Mr. Churchill, this is prohibited here. And he said, with that sense of humor that he had, what a strange country the United States is. These fabulous profits that are made by the sale of liquor, you give them to the mafias. In my country, we give it to the treasury. So that, in a say, and I tell you something, Professor Yunus, when you were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and I was Minister of Defense, as Minister of Defense, I had to go by the book, by what the international and our agreement with the Americans we had to do. So I ended up spraying more hectares of coca plantations than any other person in the planet, because Colombia is one of the few countries that sprays. We forcefully eradicated more hectares than ever before. We extradited, and I signed the extradition of 1,453 drug traffickers to the United States. And what was the effect of all this? We still are the #1 supplier of cocaine, with something which is worse. The whole of Latin America, from Mexico to Argentina, are suffering an increasing problem of organized crime at all levels. What is the problem in Haiti, a failed country? Drug trafficking. What is the problem in Central America? You go to Mexico and there are regions where the state does not control. In Colombia, what is the source of our violence in the last 30 years? That's why the Truth Commission, after hearing thousands and thousands of testimonies of the origins of the violence and the conflict of Colombia, came to the conclusion, the same conclusion that the Global Commission on Drug Policies made this week. You have to regulate the drug traffic.
Thank you, President Santos. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We only have 8 minutes. And I would like to ask Professor Yunus the following. Going back to social business, we need a new kind of leadership. Which are the key attributes, qualities of this new leadership that you think that we must instill in the new generations? And are you an optimist in relation to the potential of this new generation to develop those leadership skills to build these social businesses which will help us solve these problems that you have enunciated?
Well, for me, I would say leadership means you can challenge the existing, whatever it is. You have the capacity to challenge. That's where I was mentioning going to the old roads. Leaders would be one who will be giving leadership to build new roads. That's the most important feature of a leader. And in order to build new roads, he or she must have a clear picture in his mind, wishes, dreams, that this is the destination we want to reach. And in order to reach that destination, this is the road I want to build. And make people believe that this is possible. You can have all kinds of imagination, but people don't care what you're talking about. That's not a leadership. So leadership has to kind of combine these things. Focus on something that he or she believes in, and convince the people it's a doable thing. And one idea that I try to build with the leadership thing, I would say, leadership must make people convinced that nothing is impossible for human being, provided we make up our mind. If we make up our mind, we can really make it happen. That's the power of the human being. And leadership is one generates that power inside every person, that we can do that. And if we talk about a world of 3 zeros, it's a kind of funny description of something. That's not a leadership. Leadership is, can you communicate it to people that this is real and it can be done? Done when we are in extreme circumstances where we are just at the edges of the cliff. We are going to destroy ourselves. This is the world situation right now. We don't have much time left. And that you're saying, no, we are not going to get there. We're going to get here. It needs a tremendous amount of power to communicate it to people, believe that if they believe it, then that world will happen. That's the point I want to make. And you have another question, part of the question. What was it? You said?
Optimist.
Okay.
Are you an optimist about the capacity of the young people, the new generations?
Yes, I am very much convinced.
Confront this.
I'm very much convinced. Usual thing that the way I communicate to the young people by saying that, are you aware that you are the most powerful generation in human history? Human history never had an occasion where to have more powerful young generation than you are. So this is a very special situation for you. In the entire human history, you are unique. Not because you are smart, not because you can do things better than anybody else under the same circumstances. You are just the same young generation like any other generation. But you are gifted with amazing technology in your hand, which makes you completely different. You are literally a genie of Aladdin's lamp. The genie can do anything, and you can do anything too, provided you put your mind. You are always thinking a small way, how to finish your school, get a job. That destroys you. You have the power to do anything you want. That's the technology you have, and it keeps on increasing your power. It doesn't reduce your power. And it gives you power to direct that power that you have, which direction you want to take the technology to. An important thing, if you believe what I said, that you are aware of that power. First, you have to become aware of that power, that you are the genie. You can do anything you want. If you are aware of that, ask yourself, what use you're going to make of this power? If you don't decide what use you want to make, this power will be wasted away. Finish. You had it, but you never used it. You had the Aladdin's lamp on your table, but you never touched it. It was just like any other lamp. And genie never came because you never asked for it. You have to get ready to believe that you are the genie, you can do anything, and get prepared what you want to do, because your life history will be written on what you have done. And that's waiting for you, and you can do much more things than any other young generation ever did in the human history. That's the power you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful answer. President Santos, in this final minute, a question about leadership. Your foundation, Compass, has just created a program here to educate the future leaders for peace, for social business. Please share with us your expectations and your objectives with this project.
On this issue of leadership, my own experience, your question about what has to be changed in the leadership, I would say the following. There is, for example, leadership in times of war. I had to exercise that leadership, which is a relatively easy leadership. It's a sort of a vertical, you give orders, you have a strategy, you rally the forces, and as long as you win, you're in a good shape. Making peace is a different type of leadership. It's horizontal. Instead of giving orders, you have to persuade, you have to educate, you have to persuade a victim whose child has been tortured and killed to forgive. That is very difficult, very difficult. And this pandemic showed us that the new leadership that we need is the leadership that exercises empathy, that tells the truth. And look at the leaders who failed in the pandemic. Authoritarian leaders like Trump, like Bolsonaro, like Modi in India, like Duque in Colombia, they failed. They failed. And who did a good job? Mostly women. New Zealand, Finland, Taiwan, because they told the truth, they educated, they had empathy. And that is the type of leadership we need. And that's the type of leadership that with this university, Externado, we're trying to promote at the grassroots in order to have peace with nature, to have peace among human beings, and to promote entrepreneurship and businesses. That is the most effective way of fighting inequality and poverty. Thanks for your inspiration.
Muchas gracias, muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Dr. Yunus. Muchas gracias, Presidente Santos. Ha sido una conversación fascinante, muy importante, muy interesante, y ojalá que no solamente los que tuvimos el privilegio de escuchar sus respuestas, puedan conocer sus opiniones. Esto se va a diseminar a través de las redes sociales para que mucha gente en Colombia y en el mundo aprenda las valiosas lecciones que nos han dejado ustedes, no solamente hoy, sino con sus vidas ejemplares. Muchas gracias a ustedes, muchas gracias a la universidad por esta oportunidad, y un aplauso para nuestros invitados.
Bueno, sin duda alguna, este es un momento histórico para nuestra universidad, para nuestro país. Damos las gracias al profesor Muhammad Yunus, al presidente Juan Manuel Santos y al profesor Mauricio Rodríguez por estas interesantes reflexiones que nos llevamos el día de hoy.